The following is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.
Last week, the tricky Zandvoort circuit led to some on-track collisions and controversy. Have we put it all behind us? Well, maybe. But let's be honest, here at Suzuka, we are racing on a track that has a deep history with controversy. So which driver will be able to put last week and the rest of the field behind them and come home with the win today? It's time to find out as we welcome you to Japan for round 4 of the Batteries Not Included Championship, and you're going to get to see all of the racing action unfold live here on the Global Sim Racing channel presented by the iRacing Esports Network. Hello everyone, I'm Samuel Ryman, and alongside me in the booth is Johan Vandenbeld. Behind the scenes doing all of the button pushing is our director Sean Ambrose, and he's using camera sets provided by Dougie Beard. Johan, the setups for this series are open, which is a nightmare for the teams and drivers, because this circuit doesn't know if it's clockwise, counterclockwise, twisty or fast. In a way, honestly, it's kind of all of the above.
Absolutely, Sam, and all this started in the late 1950s when Soichiro Honda, the big name after the Japanese car manufacturer, decided to construct a permanent new circuit. This was to be the new test location of the manufacturer and opened in 1962. 25 years later, Suzuka became world famous when it hosted the Formula 1 Japanese Grand Prix for the first time, something it has done 30 times ever since. Now in that 30 years, Suzuka has been the scene of some very memorable moments, like you just said, Sam. The clashes between Senna and Prost, Raikkonen's last lap pass for the win in 2005, very memorable moments, but also 2009 provided some really good racing. A late safety car almost ruined Sebastian Vettel's dominant win, truly getting a season's best podium position in Toyota's last home race, and the championship winning car of Brown being well down the field all weekend long. Suzuka offers a great challenge for the drivers with its fast sweeping corners. Overtaking will be difficult on this 5.8 kilometer circuit, and making a mistake is a lot easier than it seems. Drivers have to be focused all race long to get a good result, and to see how that looks like, let's hop on board the Williams FW31 for a lap around Suzuka.
Alright, we've got Clayton McLeod in the GSRC Williams, so let's do a lap around Suzuka. You won't be braking until you're well into turn 1, which bleeds directly into 2. That'll make passes into here somewhat difficult, if risky. Drivers will need to assess if it's worth getting chopped off when the car ahead didn't think that you were that foolhardy. After that, you're taken immediately into the S's, which requires very little in the way of brakes, but a whole lot of throttle modulation. Staying online and close to the car ahead will be a big challenge due to the aero wake. Finally, once you come out of there into Dunlop, you'll drift the car across the track and steel yourself for Degner 1. It takes supreme commitment to take it in here as fast as you can, and before you know it, you're braking hard for Degner 2, so a planted car will be critical. After going under the bridge, you've got the hairpin, which is a good opportunity to overtake. Just be careful that your opponent doesn't surprise you with a very late defense, because you'll probably run into each other. Gently finding the power to prevent wheel spin, the car now flies along towards Spoon. Shortening the run around this long sweeping right-hander is more important than trying not to scrub off speed. Plus, it sets you up for the braking into Spoon itself. Passes here are possible, but very tough. Honestly, setting up the exit is probably the wiser choice, because using the draft and a good launch will make it easier to pass on the backstretch. Unfortunately, it may wind up placing you in a game of chicken into 130R. While it's easily flat out in the Williams, it's still kinda sketchy to go through here too wide. If you can stay close to the car ahead, you get another chance to chuck it up the inside of the Casio triangle. But remember, you're traveling at a high rate of knots, so you could wind up locking up the brakes and overshooting it. Once again, a sensitive right foot will come in handy as you accelerate onto the front stretch. But hopefully, you've kept it all together and have now finished a lap around Suzuka.
So again, that was the GSRC car going around Suzuka, but it's not GSRC who's bringing this race to you live this Saturday morning. It's the iRacing Esports Network guys who have this stream being shown live on YouTube, so be sure to subscribe to those guys, the iRacing Esports Network, if you haven't already. They have plenty of other series racing all throughout the week on road courses, ovals, dirt as well. And of course, we're getting ready for a good road course race, as you see qualifying just starting up here now in the batteries not included championship. And let's take a look at our race details, Johan, what these drivers are going to be up against once qualifying is over here.
Yeah, this is round 4 of our 12-round batteries not included championship. 4 watermarks means that there's 4 drop weeks in this championship. The race length today, however, at Suzuka, 35 laps. Setups will be open with a 67% fuel tank. In other words, that means that all the drivers have to make at least one pit stop during the race, but they can tweak the cars just to their liking, just give themselves a little bit more downforce in this very sweeping fast corners. The incident cap, well, there isn't any that the drivers have to keep in mind here in Suzuka, but the admins will keep an eye on people abusing the fact that there's no incident cap limit, so you cannot go off track and score them really nearly there. And the points, they use official iRacing points in this championship, which means it's based off the strength of field of the track of the race. Well, today it's a strength of field of 2262, so I think that the winner today will get a nice haul of points, something like 120-130 point range.
So let's have a look at how those points will play out with our driver standings after 3 rounds. Because we're only 3 rounds into a 12-race season, the positions are jumping around a lot. As you can see, Floris Bichar currently leading the points despite not having a win. Now, if a race was won in the first corner, Floris Bichar would be running away with the championship. He is excellent at starts, and he's been able to bring home good podium finishes to take a points lead. Clayton McLeod was involved in a couple of incidents with Neil Andrews last week at Zandvoort. There you see them 2nd and 4th in the points respectively. Unfortunately, I don't see Andrews here today. And then the other 2 drivers you see listed there in the top 5 have also gotten there through consistency. Thomas Ziga is always running in the top 10. But boy, what about Dave Peterson down there in 5th? He's not always a front runner, not always a name that we mention a whole lot during our broadcasts. But so far this season, he has been able to pull off 3 solid performances and currently finds himself 5th in the points as a result. So qualifying just getting underway, no times have came in yet. The drivers have only had enough time to get an outlap in under their belts. Fairly long circuit around the Suzuka circuit here, and obviously with it being a long circuit, that means the weather could be different on one end of the circuit than what it is on the other, so it could definitely throw a curveball. There you see currently partly cloudy skies, a little over 100 degrees Fahrenheit for our track temperature, and a fairly strong wind, about 7-8 miles an hour. I don't think I should be upsetting these cars too much though, Johan.
No, I don't think so either, but the partly cloudy effect that actually might throw in the factor. We heard it before, maybe some of the viewers have watched the Lotus 49 race that was on a little bit before the batteries not included race, where people were also racing here at Suzuka, and drivers were telling after the race that the fact that it was partly cloudy sometimes meant that one side of the track was completely sunny, warm track temperature, but the other half of the circuit was cloudy and very cold. And drivers really had to get used to that, because the setup worked on one side of the circuit, didn't work on the other side of the circuit. So the drivers will probably be keeping an eye on the track and hope that it stays a little bit consequent during the whole race and can just really scrape away that variable during the race today.
Floris Bichar currently sitting as our provisional pole sitter. Daniel Benefield's first lap about a tenth shy of that. These drivers can turn as many laps as they can get in during this 10-minute time. Currently we're watching the league admin Clayton McLeod. We saw him sitting 2nd in the points after the opening 3 rounds. He crosses the line and goes 3rd fastest on the board right now, behind Bichar, behind Benefield, and Damon Martinez, a name I'm not too familiar with. He's currently sitting 4th.
Scott Newton we currently see on screen. He is working on his first qualifying lap, we believe. He has been out of the pits already once. Yeah, this is his first timed lap. And we're coming through the hairpin towards the spoon curve. Scott Newton, we're following him because he was the quickest car in practice. In practice he managed a 1:31.2. It was 3/10 quicker exactly than Floris Bichar. If he manages that one more time, he will grab provisional pole position. Coming out of spoon curve, now going towards the 130R. Very quick corner, a lot of downforce you have in this car. One of the most fun corners to take as a driver. A hard braking point here to the Casio triangle. Scott Newton goes over both curbstones, clobber the apex, but he's back on throttle very quickly. Keeps it hugged to the pit wall. Comes across the start finish line and he goes to pole position. A 131.1. 1.5 tenths quicker than he was in practice. And he's sitting now really high and dry above Floris Bizar in that pole position spot.
Well, Bizar's going to try and stop that because he just came across the line right now. It looks like he's starting a hot lap right here, so let's see how he does. And actually, Clayton McLeod just jumped the second fastest, so demotes Bizar to the second row. You also may have seen briefly that Victor Prieto was able to put in the third fastest qualifying time. However, he has since fallen all the way back to fifth. So currently it's Newton, McLeod, Bizar, Benefield, Prieto, your top five. And yeah, you mentioned that, Johan, the drivers really hugging the wall if they're planning on finishing up a hot lap and not necessarily going for another one. Otherwise, they kind of seem to run it out wide a little bit more and take the racing line.
Yeah, exactly. You scrub off a little bit more speed, and if you would have a normal racing line, normal race speed, and you try to take that line where you're completely hugging the pit wall, you just scrub off too much speed and that will really hurt you at the end going into turn one. But yeah, for a qualifying lap, it is quite okay. We see Victor still being quick on the way, maybe doing a line, but here in the Casio triangle, look in front of him, he's being held up. That is Manuel Gomez Esteban. It's completely ruining Victor's quali lap there. He's taking a very wide line, trying to get some extra speed through the last corner there to set himself up for another lap.
I don't think he's going to run into any more luck on that lap, though. You see a heck of a lot of lap traffic, well, not lap traffic, but slower traffic in front of him. By the way, Bizar currently coming across the start line, but he's running... Oh, he went a little bit quicker, but remains in third position. So here we'll see if Clayton McLeod can improve. He would have to improve almost half a second to take Scott Newton off of his pole spot that he currently has.
Let's see what Clayton McLeod can do, but it's very close, however, at the moment between P2 and P5, only separated by 1.5 tenths of a second. Can Clayton McLeod improve the difference coming over the start-finish line?
And
not yet, but Daniel Benefield, yeah.
Yeah, I think he might have had an off or something, or maybe was on an outlap, but Clayton McLeod has actually gone the wrong way, as you just mentioned there. Benefield has jumped up to second fastest, but even then Benefield still over tenths back of Scott Newton. Scott Newton, you mentioned fastest in practice, he's fastest in qualifying, definitely painting himself as a driver to beat today. 18 drivers have turned a lap in qualifying so far. Looks like we're going to have a field of 23 cars. Scott Newton not giving up yet. Still turning laps out here on the Suzuka circuit. Just try and act as a buffer in case anyone else tries to knock him off of the top step. Benefield and McLeod are still out there on track, as is Bizar. And Prieto is not, so top four are out there.
Floris Bizar getting P2 there. Only 2 tenths behind Scott Newton. Not enough for the Dutch driver to get professional pole position away from Scott.
Yeah, 200ths of a second, 18 milliseconds to be exact. Bizar short of Newton. Here's Marcus Gresdell. He's sitting down there in H right now behind Thomas Ziga and Damon Martinez. Running out of time to try and improve their spots. They will get a bit of added time when the clock hits 0, so they'll have enough time to finish up any hot laps that they may be on. And Gresdell hugging the walls, that's an indication he thinks he's on the quick one, and he was indeed. He improves his time but remains 8th.
Let's take a look at Thomas Seeger. That's a driver currently sitting at P6 coming out of the last corner. Let's see if he's on the hot lap. Coming over the start-finish line. Yeah, he was on the hot lap. He actually puts himself in the top 5, overtaking Victor Prieto with a 131.5. Half a tenth behind Clayton McLeod.
And here coming across the line. Chris is sitting in 9th position there, Chris Moretta, with a 1:32.2, and now the checkered flag is out of the session. So, drivers will have one more time to try and complete a lap. Among the heavy hitters, Daniel Benefield has put in the wall, so that's not going to help him. And honestly, a lot of the cars I still see out there, Johanna, drivers currently sitting in the midfield, but let's give a shout out to a couple of them. How about Christian Kabenga? It's been a while since we've seen him here, and batteries not included.
Christian Kabenga was one of the people joining the session a little bit late. Didn't get that much of practice in under these weather circumstances. Currently only sitting P18 in qualifying. He needs to win around 0.3 of a second to pass Daniel Martin for P17. Going for spoon curve now. Let's see, he is on a quick lap at the moment. This actually might be possible for him to move himself up a little bit. However, in practice he wasn't quicker than he currently is in qualifying. So if he would improve his lap time, it would be a session best for Christian Kabenga. Coming from the Casio Triangle now. Now he actually tries to practice a pit entry. Not gonna honor this with a final lap time.
Yeah, and that's all she wrote for qualifying. No other cars on the hot lap. So, give the pole to Scott Newton by just 18 thousandths of a second over Floris Bichar, who we know is quick into the first corner. Daniel Benefield will be starting from 13th place ahead of Clayton McLeod. Thomas Zika and Victor Prieto will be on row number 3. Damon Martinez will be starting from 7th place ahead of Marcus Gresdel, and Chris Moretta and Stephen Henkel will round out the top 10.
Row 6 is being filled by Reed Miller and Andrew Botteril. On P13 we can find Luke Sullivan and Thomas Knoll in P14. Alan Morgan starts racing P15. He's being followed by Silvio Heert. Daniel Martin, we just mentioned him, being in a battle with Christian Kabenga. He wins and he starts racing P17. Christian in P18. On row 10 we can find Chris Beam. And P20 Manuel Gomez Esteban. Manuel, the last driver with an actual qualifying lap, because there's 3 drivers that didn't manage to set a qualifying lap, and those are Antonio Ortiz Poveda, Dave Peterson, and Andrew Adair Saunders.
And those first 2 names definitely surprised me. Antonio Ortiz Poveda and Dave Peterson are often top 10 contenders, and I have a feeling this is a track where you want a decent qualifying time. It's not that they've left the server or anything, they're in the server. We've got a full 23 car field. It looks like they're just opting to start from the back of it. So going to be an interesting race for those drivers, that is for sure. Now, the race session has started. That gives all the drivers 2 minutes to get gridded up. Once all the cars are on the grid, all 23 cars, we will be underway for 35 laps of racing action here at Suzuka. Of course, a run into the first turn is ever critical here at the Suzuka circuit. If Prost and Senna's historic moment here wasn't a good indication of that for you, it's going to be Scott Newton sitting on the outside, where Senna would have liked to have been all the way back those years ago, and Floris Bichar starting on the inside. But Bichar is exceptional at starts. On the other hand, Scott Newton normally isn't. He's normally a driver who fuels his car up a bit heavy, takes it easy during the first half of a race, and then strikes towards the end. So don't be surprised if Bichar leads into the first corner, and don't be disheartened if you're a Newton fan if he does drop back to second or third at the start. However, I kind of taken the drama out of this a little bit, taking it as it is. The fact of the matter is, Newton still will want to try and have a lead into that first corner, because after turn 1, you're going to go into those S's, and you definitely want all of that clean, undisturbed air holding your front wing down onto the track. It looks like all our cars are here on the grid, so the lights are about to go out. Newton on the outside, Bichar on the inside, and the lights are off and away they go, and sure enough, Newton does not get a good launch. Bichar going to have a track alt himself into turn 1, but the battle is hard for third place. Victor Prieto has had an amazing start. He's challenging for third, and out far and wide goes Benefield.
We already saw a crash happening on the rundown before turn 1. Chris Moretta got into the back of, that's another driver, let me try to find it, but 2 cars already into each other before they reach turn 1. I think they can continue though with some damage.
Saunders having trouble back there as well. He's been involved in an incident, but up front it is it's Bichard, then Newton, then Prieto. McLeod is still in 4th place. Gresdor has also got a great start. He's up to 5th. Thomas Ziege in 6th place. Benefield, after he's running wide in turn 1, has dropped all the way from 3rd to 7th.
Just a quick update, one of the drivers involved in that accident was Damon Martinez. He was our P7 driver on the grid, so one of the high hope drivers for a good result already taken out before they reach turn 1.
So once again, Gap Racing are the victors on lap number 1, with Bichard moving up from 2nd to 1st. His teammate Gresdal moving up from 8th to 5th. But how is the race going to pan out? We've got 34 more laps left to go as they come around to complete the first lap. Bichard, our championship leader, our race leader, hasn't had a win yet this season though. Right now he's leading here at the Suzuka circuit ahead of Newton and Prieto as they come back out onto the front straight. Obviously these are 2009 based F1 cars, so no DRS, no curves, but there are some battles going on into the first corner between Ziege and Benefield trying to get back up there.
Drive a little bit further down the field. Silvio here currently driving in P12, now currently driving in P13. He's falling down the order quite a bit. 3 positions in 3 corners. Oh, I see a car off the track. That's Daniel Benefield. He spins off in the exit of turn 1. I think he managed to not hit the tire barrier, but he loses quite a bit of position.
So not a good start to this race for Benefield. He's now all the way back in 12th place and, back in 11th place. Now the driver right behind him though, there is a driver going the opposite direction. That's Antonio Ortiz-Poveda. We mentioned he didn't set a qualifying lap. Already in 1.5 laps he has moved his way up from 21st to 12th position. Other big name who didn't set a qualifying time I wanted to keep an eye on was Dave Peterson, sitting 5th in the standings. He's gained a few spots, not as much as Poveda has. Yeah, you see currently sitting 18th place in the number 49 machine. Finn's getting close up front. Scott Newton, we mentioned, don't be surprised, don't be disheartened if he gets a bad start. He'll come back and he has definitely reeled Floris Bichard back in for the race lead.
Just a few tenths between them now, but I think that Scott Newton is a little bit too far to try and move here. Going into turn 1, he has to stay behind the Dutch driver for another time. Now behind him, Victor Prieto cannot really follow the speed at the moment. Victor was a half a second slower than Scott Newton last time around. Scott Newton seems to be the quickest of all the podium drivers at the moment, and he will be trying to get away past the Dutch driver as soon as possible. Otherwise, he has to worry about Victor behind him soon as well.
The top 6 though are still within sighting range of another. Bichard, Newton, Prieto, McLeod, Gresdal and Ziege. After Ziege, you have to drop back several seconds before you get the driver in 7th place, Stephen Henkel. So he stops top 6, really proving to be the class of the field today.
P11 is Daniel Benefield. Daniel Benefield is trying to make a little move on Christian Kabanga. Christian Kabanga is also very close to Andrew Botterill. 3 drivers who are very close together. Daniel, of course, probably the quickest of them all after that little spin. He tries to move on the inside of Spookov. We saw that a few months ago in Formula 1 between Sebastian Vettel and Max Verstappen go very wrong. But this time it goes very right for Daniel Benefield. He gets by, and Christian Kabanga, he had to go off track to make sure that both drivers didn't hit each other.
So as the field is coming around here to complete lap 3, down the inside of Casio. That's a nice passing move right there. The order up front remains unchanged. So this is definitely where the battle is for now. Oh, and now it's not. Here we go. That's Gresdal in the Gap Racing machine being challenged by Ziege. Gresdal was in 5th place at the line, so I think he was being defensive there on Ziege.
Oh, Sigurdsov, he takes a little bit too much. In the Dunlop curve, he went a little bit too wide. Hits the grass and just cannot avoid his car spinning. Luckily for him, he doesn't hit the wall, but look at all those cars getting by. He has to slot in behind Antonio Perfetto, who also goes off.
Yeah, but watch this all on replay, but you watch, as you mentioned, that as Ziga came back out on track, he comes back out on the circuit right behind Pavetta, but then got the position back because Pavetta went off at the Degner curves, and that's cost Pavetta position to Christian Kabenga.
A whole collection of mistakes being made in the midfield, but no mistakes being made at top of the field. The Flores Bisa and Scott Newton still nose to tail as they go through 130R. This is one of the best overtaking opportunities that you have on this track going into the Casio Triangle. Scott Newton almost losing his car there. Hitting the curb stone a little bit too hard. You can see all the distance. He immediately loses to Flores Bisa. He has to spend another lap trying to recover from that and just find his way to the gearbox of the Dutch driver in front of him.
Yeah, I think he had definitely gone into attack mode. He was trying to get a good run out of Casio to try and make the pass for the lead down the front straight. Obviously, though, got on the gas a little bit too early. And more issues for Ziga, and this doesn't look as nice. He's able to turn it back around and continue.
Very scary accident for Thomas Ziga there. He just got a little bit loose in the last corner, tried to save it, and he got clubbed by Christian Kabenga.
Kabenga still out on the circuit as well, so for now both of them able to continue. That was some hard contact, and Ziga's apologised for spinning and causing the incident. However, only 3 drivers, as we get an idea of what it was like from Kabenga's on board there. Only 3 drivers currently out of a race, to my understanding. We got Manuel Gomez Esteban, Damon Martinez, and Chris Moreda not on track. Still have 20 drivers out there racing here at Suzuka.
If we make a comparison with last season, when we also drove at Suzuka, in the end we had a retirement percentage of 50%. As I see Daniel Bielefeldt almost taking out Thomas Knoll on the run down towards 130 yards. Thomas Knoll closed the gap that Daniel Bielefeldt didn't imagine being closed. Both cars can continue, but Daniel might have a little bit of front wing damage. But like I was mentioning, last time we had a 50% retirement at the end of the race here at Suzuka, so I wouldn't be surprised if a few more drivers will finish the race before they see the checkered flag.
Yeah, we're watching a good battle for 10th place here between Kabenga and Pavetta. Pavetta on the racing line, Kabenga going defensive. Both of these drivers have had exciting races so far. Pavetta back up into the top 10. Actually, it might be the first time he's broke into the top 10 today. But yeah, you mentioned Thomas Knoll. Boy, he's really flown under the radar here in the first half of this race. He started 14th, he's up to 7th. I don't know how long he's going to be able to hold on to that, though, because Benefield is getting super aggressive as they closed into the Degner curves. But that's not exactly a good passing opportunity, and the Benefield thought better of it. These two themselves not too far back of Stephen Henkel in 6th place. And we should give you an update. Thomas Ziga did take a tow to the pits, so unfortunately his race might be done as well. Boy, this is getting close!
They hit each other once again. Literally the same thing has happened on the run down to 130 yards. This is really naughty defensive, but also really opportunistic overtaking by Daniel. You can just see them stretch out, but this is like an elastic. They get stretched out now, but I wouldn't be surprised if within one lap they will just fly together again. Because Daniel looks a little bit quicker, but he just cannot find a way past Thomas Knoll for now.
He took a look down the inside of Casio, but was way too far back. He'll try and get a good run on the exit here, maybe make something. Oh, and that's going to help him. Thomas Knoll, the rear end, stepped out as he got on the loud pedal, and that is going to allow Benefield to get the run around the outside. Now, Knoll might try and counter-attack into the first corner, and Benefield trying to cover off the inside to make sure that doesn't happen. Now, Benefield's 2 enemies are Stephen Henkel in front of him in 6th, but also himself. The reason Benefield is back here in the first place, of course, has made a couple of early mistakes. Hopefully he can get control of his car and work his way back up towards the top 5. Speaking of mistakes, we saw Scott Newton have that one exiting Casio a few laps ago, and just had another retirement for the race, by the way. Reed Miller has lost the internet connection. He might come back, but will be a couple laps down. So Bichard is still leading as a result of Newton's mistake, and Newton actually has to worry about the cars behind him. Prieto and McLeod not too far behind. Top 4 cars covered within 2 seconds. They have been able to break away from Marcus Gress still behind them.
Yeah, Clayton McLeod and Floris Bichard just probably very happy with that. Oh, as we see Scott Newton getting very close on the exit of 130. He cannot try to make a move there. Floris Bichard going a little bit defensive. Like I wanted to say, Floris and Clayton probably very happy with the retirement of Thomas Seeger, at least the problems of him. He was P3 in the championship. Let's stay on this though, because there's Scott Newton trying a move on Floris Bichard. Takes a look around the inside and he gets by him. That's P1 for Scott Newton. We were waiting for it and finally the Australian gets the job done. Victor Prieto cannot profit from that.
Yeah, we'll get a replay of this. Just a nice run out of a final turn for Scott Newton. You could see it coming and he was able to take the lead from Bichard. So now Prieto will have to try and find a way by Bichard as well, because Prieto has definitely proven to have a faster car here today. And then you see the replay of the pass. We were also keeping half an eye on the battle for 8th place. Pavetta was able to get by Thomas Knoll there. Meanwhile, going back to the incident we saw several laps ago, which also involves Christian Kabenga. He has now retired from the race, so unfortunately that attrition you talked about we saw here last season, Johan, starting to come back again. And Victor Prieto is getting very close to Floris Bichard for 2nd place right now. Let's see if he tries and makes a move out the spoon and on down to 130R.
Yeah, you almost would think that the cork is from the bottom now for Scott Newton, because he seems to pull away from Floris Bichard. And Victor Prieto also looks very, very feisty on the run out towards 130R. You cannot make a move there, and he stays right in his gearbox up towards the Cassio Triangle. Floris Bichard cannot defend. Victor puts it on the inside, side by side for the Cassio Triangle. Now Floris has the inside, and the wider line gives you more momentum, and that's all that Victor needs to get a P2 position. Clayton McLeod behind him might be an opportunity for him as well, because he had a normal run through that corner. All the cars swerving around the start-finish straight, trying to get as much draft as possible. Floris tries around the outside of turn 1, but he cannot make it stick, and they stay single file through turn 2, with Floris Bichard now relegated to P3 and Victor back to P2.
Bichard trying to defend these positions, however, all of this battling is allowing Scott Newton to build up a good cushion in front of him up front. He's opened up a gap of over 1 second to Victor Prieto now, so now it's really going to come down to the drive of a number 151 car to see if he can run Newton down for that lead or not. So Bichard's in 3rd, McLeod is in 4th.
A lot of other battles going on as well here for P11 as Daniel Martin, he's being challenged by Luke Sullivan behind him. Alan Morgan behind him as well. You can see that guy just on the edge of the screen. He's not that far away either. Dave Peterson is following Alan Morgan. So basically it's a 4-car battle for P11 just outside of the top 10. Very close between these 4 drivers. It seems that from those 4 it is Alan Morgan who's currently driving a P13 who's slightly quicker. But there's not that much difference between these drivers. Ooh, there. Through the hairpin, Luke Sullivan has a really good exit and we can put it side by side. Daniel Martin has the shorter line though, but he has the outside. Now, if Luke Sullivan can keep it there, no, he cannot keep it side by side through Spoon Curve. Just enough for Daniel Martin there to stay in front.
Yeah, and a lot of these drivers have been big movers today because of the attrition that we have been mentioning. We haven't been able to call all of them. Even Stephen Henkel and Chris Bean, also in the pits now, must have had incidents at some points. And that's allowing these drivers who started in midfield to flirt with the top 10 now before we're even at the halfway point of the race. This is Martin, Sullivan, Morgan and Peterson. And out goes Martin, a big slide there in pit entry, but I think it's too early for his scheduled stop, so he'll try and get back out on the racetrack.
A little pirouette for the fans there, but that will hurt his tires and also the time that he had. He gets overtaken by several drivers. Luckily for Daniel Martin, the next driver behind him is Andrew Adair Sanders, and he's coming through Spoon Curve now. It seems to be safe for now.
So these guys have broken up a little bit, as has the battle for the lead. Those top 4 are finally beginning to put some distance between themselves. And we're not far away from that pit window opening. However, normally the drivers try and take it a bit deeper into the run, so I wouldn't be surprised if most of our stops come around lap 20 or so. And Thomas Ziga is now officially retired from the race. That's not going to be good for his championship chances. However, as we mentioned at the top of the show, these drivers will have 4 drop weeks at the end of the season.
Last time around, Marcus Gestel in P5 was winning a little bit of time back to Clayton McLeod. Not a lot, but it was half a second. So let's see if the Scandinavian can keep up with speed and find his way towards the rear of the Canadian car. Clayton McLeod comes across the line with 133.4. Let's see, Marcus Gestel now 134.1. So it seemed to be a one-off there, with Clayton McLeod just getting the pace back again and looking forward to the rear of Floris Bissard.
The big difference, I would say, between those two is that Clayton McLeod has been running in the dirty air of a pack of cars in front of him throughout most of the race. And even though he's done a good job of keeping up with it, that's not going to be as kind to his front tyres, not having that extra weight holding his front wing down. Maybe his tyres will wear a bit more than Marcus Dresdel in the long run, and it isn't unusual, such as the power of these Williams Toyotas, it isn't unusual for us to see in the long run some drivers succumb to the tyre wear and spin off as we get closer to the pit window.
Sorry, we just had a really weird accident. I think we have to go around 1 minute back between Thomas Knoll and Dave Peterson. It was on the exit of Spoon Curve. Thomas Knoll had a spin in Spoon Curve, looped his car around, and while he tried to get back to the racing line, his dirty tires didn't get enough grip, and he spun right in front of, you can see the aftermatch here, he spun right in front of Dave Peterson. And it seems like Dave Peterson has to go to the pits to get some repairs.
Yeah, so, here we... So, we'll go back here, we get another replay from the original start of the incident where Noel just made a mistake on entry. Now, it's not that he wasn't paying attention, as you mentioned, Johan. You know, it's not like he pulled back out onto the racetrack in the racing line in front of other cars. He's well aware of where they are. They're well aware of where he is. He just lost control. He spun the tyres and slid into Peterson, and unfortunately that's an unfortunate end to the day for 2 drivers who have been having fairly quiet, solid runs.
And this is good news for Andrew Botterill, who's driving around in P8, because he was being put under pressure by Thomas Knoll. But with that mistake, with that car going away, it seems like Andrew Botterill is just driving a little bit in no man's land at the moment. Silvio Hurt is several seconds behind him, and he was just overtaken by Antonio Tispaveda. So Andrew can really focus on his own lap times now and just really consolidate on this good run. Starting in P12, currently in P8, he's looking to get a nice haul of points here at Suzuka.
Yes, surrounded by drivers who've had good runs so far. The tail end of the top 10. Luke Sullivan currently sitting in 10th place, right behind Silvio Hurt. A bit of a 3-car pack going on here, because not far behind Hurt and Sullivan is Alan Morgan in 11th. So 3 cars out there racing together.
Yeah, Silvio Hurt, we said it before, he's probably a little bit the machinist, top of the train, holding up the rest behind him a little bit. He started all the way down in P16, the cars behind him in P13 and P15. I think that Luke Sullivan has a little bit more pace now. He had a look on the inside of the hairpin, he had a look there on the inside of Spoon. Couldn't make it stick, but it did force Silvio Hurt into making a mistake. Silvio Hurt goes wide, gets a little bit of grass there, and he gets passed by both Alan Morgan and Luke Sullivan. Silvio Hurt relegates himself to P11.
Alright, now let's go back about 30 seconds on the replay here, because Thomas Knoll just had a bit of a scary pit exit. Remember, he was involved in an incident recently, so his car isn't up to par. He got on the loud pedal a little bit too loud coming out of a pit and spun across the racetrack. Who was the first driver who came across him having to take evasive action? It was our race leader, Scott Newton. So, that wasn't what Newton was expecting down the front straight.
It's not what you want to see when you're coming down the front straight there. Great stuff from Thomas Knoll to at least keep his car stationary there, staying on the brakes and just flip it around once again where everyone gets past.
Yeah, Scott Newton has been able to build up a 2-second lead over Victor Prieto. Prieto hasn't really been able to break away from Bichon McLeod behind him. They're all still covered by a couple seconds, but all 4 of them far and away ahead of Marcus Dresdel. And let's give Marcus Dresdel credit. He's had a very flawless Beach-Jarvis race here, just like his Gap Racing teammate. He got off to a great start, made up a bunch of positions, but hasn't lost any of them. He's just had a quiet race so far, running in 5th place. Now, it remains to be seen if the Gap Racing teammates come into the pits a bit earlier. Maybe, again, it's light fuel load helping them with their starts, but in the past, that hasn't always been the case. Sometimes they've pitted later than the rest of them, or, at the same time as their competitors. I am curious to see if Thomas Knoll, I know he was in the pits because of that damage, if he can make it all the way to the end without making another stop from here.
Yeah, we'll see about that, but just looking at the lap times, I think Marcus Gaston has to look a little bit behind him though. It is 7 seconds to get between him and Daniel Benefield. Daniel is quick. I would say the average is around half a second per lap. So if Daniel can keep up the pace, and if Marcus keeps up this pace, I think that Daniel will run him down before the race is over.
And we won't find out about Thomas Knoll because unfortunately he is now also retired from the race. And that leaves us with just 12 cars on the lead lap. I think 13 out there incident-free. Andrew Adair Saunders just went a lap down in 13th position. And we're only about a third of a way race distance and we're already losing half a field. Suzuka is a tricky circuit, Johan.
Absolutely. Well, luckily for us, this doesn't seem to be any very hot battles at the moment where there's a chance of cars taking each other out. I'm looking around, but probably the best battle that we have is for those podium positions. It is between Victor Brito, Floris Bizar and Clayton McLeod. Those three drivers are basically between 2.5 seconds of each other. It seems like Clayton McLeod is just losing connection a little bit to Floris Bizar. These drivers are the closest battle that we currently have on track. It will be interesting to see when these drivers will opt in to make their pit stop and where they come out, because that will determine who will finish on the podium today here at Suzuka.
Yeah, you just saw at the top of your screen there, going purple was Daniel Benefield. He just ran in 1 minute 32. The top 5 in front of him are all in 1:33. So Benefield definitely tearing it up right now. Unfortunately, he made a lot of his own mistakes early on the race to put him back in 6th from 3rd on the grid to start with. And, he's got to dig himself out of a pit that he dug.
Daniel's very quick, of course. He won already one race earlier this season at the Nürburgring, so you know that he's very quick. And if he can keep up this pace difference until the end of the race, he's still one of the drivers that you might see on the podium when the chicane will be handed out. So let's keep an eye on Daniel Benefield and how he will be able to move himself forward there, especially compared to Clayton McLeod and Marcus Gestel, the two drivers that are directly in front of him.
And Scott Luton is in front of all of them right now, completing lap 15. And I'll tell you what, Bichard has run Prieto back down for 2nd place here. In fact, Prieto going a bit defensive on the front straight here. Bichard's got his slipstream, he's tucked right up on the rear wing of him, can't make anything happen into the first corner. But 2nd place might not be decided yet.
And this will help, of course, Clayton McLeod behind him and Daniel Benefield as well, who's trying to run them down. Floris Bizar has to wait here through the S's, through the Dunlop curves. These are not corners where you can try to make a move. And entry, when we run out towards Dunlop curve, a whole streak of grass laying there on the track. Probably a few cars who went wide there with the wheels through the grass, just dragging a little bit of dirt onto the track. Doesn't bother Floris Bizar that much though, although looking at it on screen, Sam, it seems like he's losing connection a little bit this lap around. And Victor is just getting a slight gap to the Dutch driver.
Or even with these 10-year-old Formula 1 cars, the aero wake is definitely a concern. I have a feeling a lot of this is just Bichard not able to stay stuck underneath the rear wing of Prieto throughout the twisty infield. Now they get back out to the fast parts of the circuit, but Bichard is definitely quite a ways back of Prieto right now, so they might remain 2nd and 3rd respectively this time around, with Prieto ahead. Currently Newton, Prieto, Bichard, McLeod, Dresdel, your top 5, Benefield, Poveda, Botterill, Sullivan and Hurt, your top 10. And yeah, Bichard definitely not close enough this lap as they come around to complete lap 16 and make something happen on Prieto. I almost wonder if it would be worth trying to save his tyres and play a bit of a fuel strategy game, a bit of pit strategy here, Johan. See if he can make something happen with Victor during our round of pit stops.
It's difficult because you don't know how much fuel the car in front of you has, but it might actually be worth it if Floris is that much quicker. Maybe try an undercut. That driver isn't doing that so far though. You almost would argue, with seeing how difficult it is to actually make an overtaking maneuver stick, that you have to try something strategy-wise to really find a way past your opponents. As the sun is getting out, it's getting a lot darker a lot lighter on track.
Which could make even more of a difference. These cars are obviously, the handling is changing lap after lap as the fuel burns off, the tyres get more worn, the track changes temperature, marbles build up. All of this is happening in the iRacing world just like it does the real world, and unfortunately it has snake bit a lot of drivers today. All of these drivers are out of the race. Thomas Knoll, Dave Peterson, Stephen Henkel, Christian Kapenka, Reed Miller, Chris Bean, Thomas Ziegler, Chris Moretta, Damon Martinez and Manuel Gomez Esteban. All of those drivers out of the race. 13 left out there racing for position.
Clayton McLeod's look a little bit feisty. Now the gap between him and Floris Bisa is shrinking quite rapidly. It's under a second now since the first time in a few laps. Look at the Canadian, he's now closer to Bisa than Bisa is to Prito. So we actually might earlier see a change in positions for P3 than we see for P2.
Yeah, Clayton. I don't want to say Clayton McLeod is doing well yet, because every time I say that it seems to fall away from him, but as of lap 18, things are going okay for him. He's tucked up right behind second and third place. These drivers all less than 5 seconds back of our race leader, and they're all 10 seconds ahead of Marcus Gresdal. There's no reason that Newton, Prieto, Bichard or McLeod should finish any worse than 4th today, as much as all of them would love a victory or finish on the podium. However, batteries not included has definitely thrown some curveballs at us in the past, with drivers making unforced errors during the second half of the race. And that's not necessarily talking, criticising the talent of the drivers, but just how wild and unpredictable this Williams F1 car can be, especially with the new dynamic weather that iRacing has brought in over the past few weeks.
Absolutely. Well, let's follow what's happening here, because Bisa is getting closer. Prieto this time around, going to the 130R. He actually might have an opportunity on the braking for Queso Triangle. He's trying it around the outside. Victor is defending the inside, side by side on the rundown. Floris Bisa cannot find a way around the outside there. Now on the exit, will Clayton McLeod have opportunity? No, Clayton McLeod is too far away. Floris Bisa doesn't get a great run out of that chicane. Try and move in the inside of turn 1. There's a car coming out of the pits. That's Alan Morgan, one of the first cars that we see making a regular pit stop there. Very tight racing between these drivers, as Marcus Gestal is also making a pit stop. That's our first top 5 driver choosing to make a pit stop. Get some new tires, get some new fuel. Start the second stint of this race.
Now that might be an indication that Marcus did have his car fueled up lighter than the rest of his competitors, enabling him to make up all those positions at the start. However, it worked. I mean, he's not exactly battling anyone else out there on track right now, so as long as he can race the second half of the race as well as he did the first half, he should be able to come home with a solid top 5.
I think that also a reason that he came in might be because Daniel Benefield was breathing heavier and heavier down his neck. The last lap before Marcus went in to make a pit stop, Daniel closed down 1.5 seconds to the Scandinavian, brought the gap down to under 2 seconds. So maybe the Marcus just wanted to avoid a fight, just come in the pits a little bit earlier. We've seen Andrew Butterill there also visiting his pit crew. He's getting rolling again. He was P8 when he came in to the pits. I think that he'll be P10 or P9 when he comes out. A little bit, yeah, P10 sadly. So he's slotting in behind Daniel Martin.
So I did my statement on Marcus Gresdal then. He should be able to come home with a solid top 6. Yeah, hopefully, maybe he'll be able to pull off a top 5. And Scott Newton, our race leader, is into the pits. This isn't exactly what I was expecting. After his slow roll off of a line, I would have thought he would have had a heavier fuel load.
We could see in that long shot that we just saw that there's fighting going on still between Victor and Flores. For now that P1 position, they're single file once again through the SS, so we don't have to go to that right now. Let's just follow Scott Newton when he comes out of the pits there. But a P2 battle between Flores and Victor is now a P1 position. With Clayton McLeod sitting in the popcorn position.
But how long can these drivers all stay out, and how much have each of them practiced pit entry? Because if they all come into the pits the same lap around, some of them might be tucked up right under the rear wing if they're a bit late or on the brakes and their competitors in front. Prieto, Bichart, McLeod, your top 3 drivers on track, all yet to make a stop as we work lap 20 of 35 here at Suzuka. And Silvio Hurt now making a scheduled stop. And he'll probably be able to get out of his pit stall before our leaders come in, if they come in. And we're about to find out, because Prieto is leading them up to Casio right now in that number 151 machine. Bichard pressuring him from behind. Or if they don't come in, we might end up with a scrap on down the front straight. And sure enough, they're all staying out. Well, into the pits at the back, I believe McLeod came in. Bichard just a bit too far back. He's going to stay there in second for now.
You're absolutely right. Clayton McLeod indeed went to the pitch. You can see the Canadian here rolling down towards his pit crew. And when he comes out, I think that he'll be something like 5 seconds behind Scott Newton. There's not a lot of extra speed that Clayton McLeod could have had. We see on top of the screen Daniel Benefield again with the quickest lap time. And he is really trying to fight his way towards Clayton McLeod. Scott Newton is coming over the start-finish line now as Clayton McLeod get rolling once again. He is now going past the pylons, trying to get full speed again. He's quite a bit behind Scott Newton.
Pretty much right where we expected, I would say, like about 5 seconds behind. But you pointed out that Benefield just set the fastest lap of the race. Well, that's going to get very interesting when he comes out of a pits to see if he is battling Gresdal for position.
Absolutely. Well, I would almost guess that Daniel Benefield has increased so much his lap times that he will be very clear of Marcus Gestel when he comes in for his pit stop. Also, when is Daniel gonna make his pit stop? Because he has been stringing together very quick lap times for a while now. Low 32s for the last 4 laps in a row. Only 32, 1, 2 or 0s. He's really putting down the hammer now.
Prieto comes in, Bichard stays out. So these two drivers on different strategies. And now the pressure is really going to be on Bichard to try and set a quick lap time and jump Prieto with the overcut in the pits. The problem is Bichard's about to run into some lap traffic in the likes of Luke Sullivan. Actually, that's probably all lap traffic he'll have to deal with. So we'll see how quickly he gets by him.
Let's follow through to Prieto, who's currently standing still on the pits. He gets rolling now again. Let's see where it comes out. It's Scott Newton screaming by him right now. Clayton McLeod is coming out of the last corners. Now will Clayton McLeod be able to get by Victor Prieto? No, there's actually quite a bit of distance between them.
But what about Benefield here? Benefield is coming out of the pits. Where is Marcus Gresdal? He is nowhere to be seen. Those hot laps for Benefield have allowed him to leapfrog into what essentially will be 5th position. So he's been able to pull out quite significantly over Marcus Gresdal. There's about 7 seconds ahead of him. Now, the problem is, of course, Benefield's early race problems came when he had a heavy fuel load and cold tyres. Well, he's got those again. Daniel Martin currently coming in for his scheduled stop. We're still waiting for Floris Bichard to come in. And once again, that really tells you how talented the Bichard is off the start line, considering the fact that he jumped the rest of the competition at the start and he did it with a heavy fuel load. But Cinderella has a curfew, as Soup would say, and Bichard comes into the pits.
Yeah, he comes in, and Scott Newton at the same time was very quick as well. The last few laps, Scott Newton was around 1-2 seconds quicker than Floris Bichard, so I think that Floris has to slot in behind Scott Newton. Will he be able to leapfrog Victor Prieto once he gets by him?
Worth noting, Pavetta has still not came in for a stop yet, so I think that's our new overall race lead is Pavetta. Here comes Bichard out of the pits. Newton's gone by, Prieto has gone by. He should rejoin in front of Clayton McLeod though. So, our race lead is Pavetta, but behind that are the drivers who have pit, and they are in the same order as when they came in. Newton, Prieto, Bichard, McLeod, and then the first change for position is Benefield ahead of Gresdal. So that begs the question, Where is Pavetta going to come out when he finally comes in? He had been running in 7th, but it looks like Marcus Dresdel had a very slow stop, so I almost wonder if Pavetta will be battling Dresdel for position.
It is a very good question, but looking at the amount of time that you spent going down the pit lane, I would say that Antonio just lacks a little bit of time to come out in front of Marcus Gestel. I think he'll be behind the Scandinavian a little bit. But it also depends how long can Pavetta go on with his stint. If he can maybe string together a few more laps, he might be able to win just what he needs to come out in front of Marcus.
Alright, well, I wouldn't be surprised if Bichar's fuel, considering we have a limited fuel tank, expires not this lap. Okay, so Pavetta will stay out another lap, lead lap number 23. Now, one thing Pavetta problem he might run into if he stays out there too long is Scott Newton running him down, but I take that back as soon as those words come out of my mouth, because actually, on the lighter fuel load, Pavetta is pulling away from Newton right now in the race lead. So, if you have enough fuel to keep going, why not? If it makes you faster than the leader. Well, the provisional leader.
And it's helping Antonio in that battle with Marcus Gestel, because last time around it was almost a second quicker than Gestel. So this really helps him, but there's currently, as they came across the start-finish line, a 22-second gap between them, and I think that's too little for Antonio to come out. Ahead of them, there's a little battle going on. It's the battle for P11, Daniel Martin and Alan Morgan. The last two drivers that are on the lead lap, they were side by side in the hairpin. And Alan Morgan is trying to find a way past Daniel Martin. He takes a different line here through Spawn Curve. You can see him swerving over the gearbox of Alan Morgan. Cannot find a way there. But then run on towards 130R. Alan Morgan seems a little bit quicker.
And this is where I'm thinking, if I'm Pavetta, I want to pit now, even if I have enough fuel to go another lap, because if he stays out this lap, he's going to run into this battle, and that will hold him up. So here comes Pavetta. Pit entry, here he comes.
Listening to you while Alan and Daniel are continuing the fight. Antonio is coming into the pit lane, and let's see where Marcus is. Marcus now through the 130R.
Now, because he started the race with so much fuel, Pavetta's probably not going to have a long stop here. It's going to be 4 tires on and off, and when he hits the ground, they should have finished the fuel. And sure enough, Pavetta already rolling, but Dresdel is going to go by.
Just a little bit too little, but the good thing for him though is there's 11 laps to go, and I think that maybe in those 11 laps, if Antonio can keep up the pace, he can maybe try to run down Marcus Gestel, put some pressure on the Scandinavian for P6.
Barring any drama, it looks like
drama it is for Daniel Martin, who gets a little spin on the exit of the hairpin. A lot of the leaders getting by him. It takes quite a while for Daniel Martin before he can get going again. Now, did he get a little tap there? I did get a little tap by Alan Morgan, but that was not what spun him around. It was going on the throttle that spun Daniel around. He just couldn't control it. You can see it here in the replay. Just touches the wall slightly. That will damage him a little bit. Luckily for him, he doesn't have to take a tow. But he loses that position to Alan Morgan.
Alright, let's try this again. Barring any drama, Scott Newton is looking in good shape to take this victory ahead of Prieto. Where it's really going to get interesting, I think, is third place. Floris Bichar is not far ahead of Clayton McLeod, and behind them both, Daniel Benefield is running them both down at almost a second a lap.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think that Daniel Benefield is really the one to look out for, because with the speed difference that he currently has probably enough speed difference to make an overtake quite okay here at Suzuka. I don't think they have that much trouble getting around Clayton McLeod and Floris Bichar with the speed that he's currently showing.
Victor Prieto losing some time behind the lap car of Alan Morgan. And yeah, they had a bit of a heavy moment going under the bridge out of Degner 2, but no thrills or spills. So, Alan Morgan comes and hits Clayton McLeod. Alan Morgan a bit not paying attention to his mirrors there, and Clayton also thinking that there would be a hole when there wasn't. Contact between them will cost Clayton McLeod 4th position to Daniel Benefield.
Oh, I can imagine though that Clayton McLeod went for that gap because he was letting Floris Bizarre by, and I don't think that Alan Morgan saw in his mirrors that there were 2 lead lap drivers coming up behind him, and he just steered in when Floris Bizarre came by. Completely didn't see the Canadian and takes him out of that podium battle.
So this does drop Clayton McLeod from 4th to 5th. However, I think the bigger driver with a threat now is Victor Prieto in 2nd. Because Victor Prieto also got held up by the lap car of Alan Morgan, so he lost some time, and Daniel Benefield now has 1 less car to pass to get him. I don't think 2nd place is out of the question for Benefield.
And that would be an incredible drive from Daniel Benefield if he actually makes that stick after that spin that he had at the beginning stages of the race. If he can get his car back to a podium would be incredible work, but even P2, wow, that would be probably the greatest drive that we see here today.
Now you see Benefield just went purple again, fastest lap not too long ago. Alright, so let's give you a full run down the field. We've got less than 10 laps to go in this race and only 13 cars, so might as well run them all down. Scott Newton has a handy lead, about 2.5 seconds over our 2nd place driver Victor Prieto. Then things get a little bit more dicey. Floris Bichard is currently running in 3rd, but not too far behind him is a hard charger in Daniel Benefield in that number 16 car, with unquestionably the fastest car on the track. Clayton McLeod dropped to 5th due to an unfortunate incident with a back marker. Fortunately, it doesn't look like his car's too badly damaged, and he has about 10 seconds still over Marcus Gresdal, who's all the way back in 6th place. Gresdal also sitting quite comfortably over Antonio Ortiz Poveda in 7th position, and then, boy, there is a massive jump back from Poveda in 7th back to the second half of the field, Johan.
Yeah, the second half of the field is being led by Andrew Botterill. He's currently driving in P8, more than a minute behind Scott Newton. Luke Sullivan is slotting in behind him. Luke Sullivan drives around in P9 and he is just in front of Silvio Hurt. Silvio is the last lead lap driver that we have here, rounding out the top 10. And there's a few more drivers out there that are not on the lead lap, starting with Alan Morgan, who's currently driving around in P11. Daniel Martin, who's not that far behind him to be honest, driving around to P12, so we might see a battle for P11 there as well. The last driver out there today is Andrew Adair Saunders. He's driving around 1 lap down in P13.
And 7.5 laps left to go for the leaders. We'll catch up with our driver in 6th place here. And Antonio's been shown in 6th right now. Something has happened to Marcus Gresdal. Gresdal has lost a position to Poveda. He's had an off somewhere this lap.
He went spinning through the Dunlop curve. Yeah, Gresdal, we're going to a replay of that incident, but Gresdal, and that almost took out Poveda, I see there. Wow! We might be a great idea to go on board with Poveda here, because look what happens when he goes through Dunlop curve. You can see Gresdal spinning here, and suddenly Antonio Ortiz Poveda has to take avoidance action dramatically going through the gravel of Dunlop curve. He barely avoided the Scandinavian standing still there.
Yeah, we're getting on board of Poveda, exactly what happened. A very blind corner, turn 7 here, and he went to the outside. Could have chose the inside too, but you got to go on instinct when you're racing at those speeds and that little time to react to Poveda. I'll tell you what, he probably didn't appreciate the incident point, but I think he'll take 6th place for it.
I think so as well. Luckily for Antonio, I can continue after that, because I think there's more than a few drivers who would have completely not have the time to react on that and plowed into Marcus Gresdal. Luckily for him, he can continue in P6. I think that with a 16-second deficit to Clayton McLeod, he is too far behind to try and move to get a P5 spot.
Yeah, well, Greg still recovered, only 3 seconds behind Pavetta, so Pavetta's got to be a bit cautious himself. He doesn't allow that gap to close down. Or else that could be a battle in now closing stages here. Speaking of a battle, this is one we've seen a few times before today, the battle for second. Looks like Bichard is reeling in Prieto. He just took another 0.2 of a second out of him that lap. Behind them, Benefield took another half a second out of them both. So earlier, I said Prieto looked safe and comfortable in second, and as the laps are starting to wind down, I am more and more regretting that statement. There's a chance Prieto could fall as far down as fourth here, because it looks like a three-way battle for second place is shaping up in the closing stages. And once more, all of them are faster than our race leader, Scott Newton. Newton has a little bit more of a cushion. He's 2 seconds up the road. But still, if Newton's not out of reach here, if our race leader makes a mistake, things could really get shaken up.
Yeah, last time around Scott Newton was 0.3 of a second slower than Victor Prieto. Well, looking at the amount of laps that there's left, that could mean that if it keeps up like that, Victor actually closes the gap to Scott Newton before the race is over. There's a little bit of traffic in front of Victor though. That's Luke Sullivan who gets lapped. It's easy for Victor and Floris Bichard. No, Floris Bichard cannot get by him before the 130R. He has to do it in the Cassio Triangle.
Yeah, nice driving there by Luke Sullivan to let them by. Luke Sullivan, even though he's going to lap down, having a good race. He started in 13th, he's in 9th position, and barring any incidents, he should be able to finish there. Now, Scott Newton really cracked down that lap. He pulled out a few tenths on Victor Prieto. Prieto was able to also pull out a few tenths ahead of Bichard, but faster than all of them. Purple at the top of the screen. Daniel Benefield continues to set the fastest lap.
Yeah, to even put another stripe under that, Floris Bichard had a horrible lap. He got by the left car of Luke Sullivan, but then completely outbraked himself in the Cassio Triangle. Lost a lot of time and actually was 1.2 seconds slower than Daniel Benefield that time around. So the gap between the two drivers is only 1.5 seconds, a little bit less now as well. Ooh, as Daniel Benefield made a slight mistake there on the second Degner corner. A few of the drivers here in the top tier just making a few mistakes. Of course, concentration problems might be setting in. It's a long race so far, already 15 minutes underway. With only 5 more laps to go, the drivers really have to keep their head down and not make any mistakes if they want to get a good result here.
They might have one more lap car to deal with. In 8th position is Andrew Botterill, but once they get by Botterill, if they catch him, I think they will, they have pretty much half a lap of clean racetrack. It's really 2 separate packs of cars going on here. We got one pack of cars pretty much a lap ahead of the second pack of cars, and then half a track of nothing going on. Gives the spectators time to talk between the leaders coming by every lap. So 132.9 for Newton, 132.5 for Prieto, so he was back on it that lap. 132.3 for Bichard, 132.4 for Benefield. So that mistake, now, is that Benefield's tyres giving up, or is that just a result of that mistake coming out of Degner 2 that caused him to have a bit of a bad lap there? Find out in a not too distant future. This is definitely, I'd say, the best battle shaping up on the track in the closing 3.5 laps of this Grand Prix. Newton, Prieto, Bichard and Benefield. And earlier, almost completely discounted Benefield. Said, yeah, he'll get 5th or 4th or something, you know, but he's out of a shot for the win or a podium. Well, he's definitely proving me wrong, because I don't think Bichard or Prieto are out of reach at this stage. If Newton makes a mistake, you could almost say his lead could be at risk, but so far I haven't seen a whole lot of mistakes out of Newton today.
He's not making a lot of mistakes, but he was the slowest driver last time around with a 132.9, and now he's also getting a little bit of traffic in front of him. That would hurt him going towards turn 1, or well, maybe it just gives him a little draft going towards turn 1. Let's see if Scott Newton can recover a little bit. At 132.9 now gets a 132.2. So he's finding the pace once again. But look at Daniel Benefield. He comes across the line with a 131.388. That is the fastest lap of the race, as you can see on top of the screen. He's really close now to Floris Bizarre.
Prieto is about to catch the lap's car of Botterill in the S's here, and if Botterill doesn't get out of the way before the Degner curves, I have a feeling he could bunch him up a little bit. He doesn't have any pressure from behind. Let's see what Botterill does here. He doesn't get out of the way. He runs a little wide on the exit of Degner 1, and that's going to force the leaders to go on the inside, and boy, Botterill sliding through the gravel there. Should have just yielded it on the straight. However, looks like no harm, no foul. He'll rejoin in 8th place, but it has bunched P2, P3 and P4 right up together.
It actually might hurt Andrew a little bit more because it allowed Luke Sullivan behind him to close up quite a bit. Let's see if that's a battle that you can keep an eye on before the end of the race. But this podium battle, like you say, Sam, is really heating up at the moment. Floris Bizarre is close enough out of Spoon Curve here to maybe try and move into 130R, the Casio Triangle. He's 100% in the draft now. He gets closer and closer to Victor. He doesn't take a look on the inside through the 130R, but he's close enough. Victor's defending the inside of the Casio Triangle. Floris tries around the outside, but he cannot brake late enough to try and put his car on the outside. Look at Daniel there trying a different line. He always can put his nose in there. Cannot make it stick on the exit, and it's Victor immediately hugging to the inside, not trying to give Floris any chance to put it on the inside of turn 1. He gets back to the racing line, but Floris profits from that. Now he can take the inside. He gets side by side there. Floris Bizarre gets back to P2. Daniel Benefield cannot profit from that. But he likes the battling going on in front of him because this will give him an opportunity to put his car side by side with Victor.
That was excellent piece of driving from Floris Bizarre there. He realised that 130R was out of the question. Also, Casio was a bit out of the question. He was rolling his foot out of the throttle, just trying to set him up for the pass on the front straight. He got a great run out of Casio, got the slipstream, got the position, is now running second place of Prieto. Now, because of the lap traffic, that's allowed Newton to run away from them a little bit. So maybe Newton, with just 1.5 laps left to go, is sitting a bit more comfortable in the race lead. Bizarre in second. Now, even though he's not far ahead of Prieto, I think Prieto's got to be a bit more concerned with the hard-charging Benefield behind him in 4th place. However, as I say that, they go through Spoon. Prieto got through there, and that's the moment. Was that a mistake from Benefield?
Incredible mistake there. Also, incredible save from Benefield. He almost lost it. He almost spun there from Spoon Curve. But look at the amount of time that he lost. I think that's Daniel Benefield out for a podium position because he lost quite a bit of time. Ooh, Victor Prieto almost rear ends Floris Bizarre in the Casio Triangle. You could see the smoke coming away from under the tires. He loses a lot of track position now to the Dutch driver in front of him. So this will maybe give Daniel Benefield another chance to give Victor a run for his money and try to get a P3 position away from him.
Well, it's the final lap of a race, and Newton leading by 2 seconds over all this going on. Prieto realised, I think, after Benefield's mistake, he didn't have to worry about losing 3rd place anymore. He could just go all out for 2nd. Unfortunately, Bizarre, we saw playing it very smartly 2 laps ago. He took it easy into Casio. He knew his goal was to get a good exit coming out of Casio and get a good run down the front straight, try and make a pass stick there, and it worked. Prieto took the complete opposite philosophy. He went all out into Casio, trying to get right up on Bizarre's rear wing. It didn't work for him. He made a mistake, and now he might lose 3rd as a result for it because Benefield is all over the back of him as they come out of a hairpin. These drivers only a couple of seconds down the road from our race leader Newton, so we'll be able to follow them all the way up into the entry of Casio and then call Newton ahead for the race victory, which it looks like he should get, and deservedly so. But as they come out of Spoon here, Prieto was a little wide on XM. Benefield is going to smell blood as they go down into 130R even. Benefield going to try and get a podium. Down the inside here is going to be all the gloves coming off into Casio. Prieto might look down the inside. He's going to look around the outside. Nothing happening. Scott Newton is going to take a victory here today at Suzuka. 2nd place is going to be shy about big incident.
Oh, behind him, sorry, Scott Newton wins the race, but Victor Prieto smelled blood because Daniel Benefield had a horrible accident out of the Casio Triangle. Daniel Benefield tried to defend that, but got a little tap from Victor Prieto, and Victor flips himself in the last corner. That's Clayton McLeod who will be able to get that final P4 position, and Victor Prieto lands on his roll bar. He cannot finish the race. And that's Antonio Pettis-Poveda going to P5.
The Newton winning as 4 different winners in 4 different races. We'll get a replay here of how that all unfolded. We caught the end of it at the tail end of the broadcast, and a very unfortunate end to the race there for Victor Prieto. And as you mentioned, Johan, it wasn't entirely his fault. I mean, it was a mistake from Benefield in front of him, and he's not going to get out of a loud pedal. He's got a finish line. The checkered flag's waving right in front of him.
It's really difficult because you would almost say that Daniel Benefield maybe didn't get completely on the apex of his racing line, and Victor kind of anticipated there and just steered in a little bit too early, clipped his rear wheel. I don't know. But in the end, it's Victor flipping around. It's very difficult to say whose fault it was, but my heartbreak for Victor because he was on the podium position all race long, and in the end, he comes home with, I think P7.
Yeah, just 6 cars crossing the finish line on the lead laps. Prieto just demoted to 7th place, but definitely not the 4th or the 3rd that he might deserve. Well, we're going to take a quick break here on GSRC and the iRacing Esports Network. We will be back for full race rundown as well as post-race interviews to go on. Hello and welcome back to Suzuka, where we just witnessed one of the best races of the season, I would say, in the Batteries Not Included Championship, with the top 3 finishers being covered by 5 seconds. Almost the top 4 finishers. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be for Victor Prieto all the way down there in 7th. There you see our podium finishers there. Scott Newton, Floris Bichard and Daniel Benefield was able to rally back from a poor start to finish in 3rd place. Clayton McLeod finished where he started in 4th place after a bit of drama there with the lap car earlier on. Antonio Poveda came all the way from 21st to 5th. Marcus Gresdal will bring it home in 6th position after a nice start at the start of a race, and then everyone else was a lap down or more. Victor Prieto wasn't really a lap down, he was a corner down, but not crossing the finish line means he finishes in 7th. Andrew Botterill is in 8th position ahead of Luke Sullivan and Silvio Head.
And there's 3 more drivers finishing the race, starting with Daniel Martin coming home in P11. P12 goes to Alan Morgan. And the last driver finishing this race is Andrew Adair Saunders. And then there's a few drivers that haven't finished here today, starting with Tom Busnell classified in P14. Dave Peterson behind him. Stefan Henkel was very promising in practice. Crashed out in the end, classified as P16. Christian Kabanga, we saw him retire early in the race. Reed Miller had problems as well. Chris Bean is classified in P19 in the 3 drivers that had a very promising starting position but didn't see the finish of the race. Thomas Seeger in P20, Chris Moretta in 21, Damian Martinez in P22. And the last driver classified here at Suzuka is Manuel Gomez Esteban in P23.
Well, Scott Newton is currently celebrating with his team, but we've caught up with our second place finisher, Floris Bichard. Floris, you came into this race as the points lead, but you're still looking for that first win of the season. Unfortunately, Scott Newton had you all covered by a couple seconds there, but you brought back the next best in.
Yeah, I did. I mean, it's a shame. I keep almost winning, but these fast guys keep showing up, and then I don't win. It's the same with the pole positions, so yeah. No, but that was an amazing race, and I was even catching Scott towards the end, so I was looking forward to doing another couple of laps, but it wasn't to be.
Yeah, with about 5 laps left to go, we could kind of see it coming, that there was going to be a great battle from 2nd through 5th. What were your goals for that battle? I mean, were you saying, I deserve 2nd here, or I'll be happy with the podium, or I'm just going to race hard and see where I finish?
Well, basically, I always race hard and see where I finish, but the podium would have been nice, and I got 2nd, so... that was a bit more than I was hoping for, but I was really aiming this race to finish ahead of Clayton. But I'm more than happy with 2nd, especially considering I was catching Scott and stayed ahead barely of Daniel, so I'm well happy with that.
Well, we know you're pretty, you're able to build up a bit of a lead here. You're sitting pretty in the lead of a championship standings, but as we mentioned, that victory still eludes you. Do you think Barber next week is a place where you could pull that off?
To be perfectly honest, the last time I raced at Barber was in 2014 in the Skippy, so I'm looking forward to doing that in the Williams, but I'm kind of curious what's going to happen. I wasn't expecting to be leading this championship at all, and I'm more than happy to keep going with a lead. So we'll see what next week brings, but I honestly don't know.
All right. Well, we look forward to finding out with you, and congratulations on the good finish today.
Thank you.
All right. So that was our 2nd place finisher, Floris Bichard. Let's go step down the podium. Johan, you've called up with Daniel.
Yeah, Daniel, welcome to the booth. Looking at your results today, you started the race in P3, you finished the race in P3, but that doesn't tell the story because, boy, there was a lot of things happening with you out there. Let's just start with the final corner of the race, your contact with Victor that saw him flipping in the end. What exactly happened from your point of view?
I just tried to park the car on the apex, and then I knew he'd still get around the outside. But it was more, the car really struggles for grip on the exit, like as the road starts to fall away coming through the last corner. And I think I just wheel spun it up in 2nd gear and corrected it. And unfortunately, Victor was just there and neither of us could really avoid it.
Wrong place, wrong time for Victor there. Well, you come home in P3 in the end. It didn't seem at the beginning of the race that you actually would come home with a podium position after that little wiggle that you had coming out of turn 2 in lap 2 that sent you down the order a little bit. How were you feeling after that happened? Were you confident that you could actually come home with a podium after that?
Yeah, no, like I think what hurt me more was this being coming through Dunlop curve later on when I was on my own. I didn't expect to be within 5 seconds of Scott though come the end, I'll be honest. So, I mean, it proves that the pace was there. I just made too many mistakes.
Absolutely shows that the pace was there. Well, with 4 races in the books, you've got a P1 result and a P3 result. So that's a very good point scored so far this season. Are you looking to go all the way? Are you really fighting for the championship this season?
Depends how many races I can do in reality. There's just things that may come up that may prevent me racing. It just depends on what happens, really.
Very good. Well, you come out here with a podium position. Congratulations with that, Daniel. We hope to see you again very soon.
Thanks, guys.
As Daniel Bedingfield's coming home in P3. Now, in the meantime, you have caught up with Scott Newton, Sam.
Yeah, here we get to top step of a podium. The one driver this race who really had a quiet race, honestly. Scott, congrats on your victory today.
Hey Sam, to be honest, it wasn't quiet, to be fair, given the first 8 laps. Sitting in P2 behind Flores, but yeah, thankfully I was able to jump past him and thankfully hold on, as the gap didn't really increase that much throughout the course of the race, unlike last time we were here in the previous season.
Yeah, I definitely understand that you had pressure from behind you throughout the second half of the race. You mentioned there were, someone was sitting a couple of seconds behind you pretty much throughout the entire race. But it seemed whenever they were able to close in about half a second, you would go out the next lap and be able to cover them off.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what was up with that, because some laps I would find the landmine at turn 1, and that would cause me to lose at least 2 tenths in that corner alone, and then over the course of the lap I'd probably lose probably another 3 or 4, just finding the confidence again, just to make the car stick. But then when I didn't hit the landmine, I'd be able to go at least close to my personal best. Sadly, I didn't get the fastest lap today, but within about half a tenth, I can't be too displeased about that.
Well, so some laps you found the landmine in turn 1, but then there was one lap you found a lapped car who had spun his wheels on pit exit entering turn 1. How heavy was that?
Yeah, to be honest, with all of the hits, with the car bouncing at the Casio Triangle, luckily I lost enough time to be able to spot the car that was coming across the pit lane. Otherwise, if I had have got the Casio Triangle right pretty much every time, it might have been a very much a different story tonight, where I could have been in barriers with him, and either Preto or Flores taking the win. But luckily I was able to spot the spinning car and avoid him. So, yeah.
All right, well, we'll see you next week at Barber.
Ooh, Barber. Depending on how the Daytona 24 falls, we'll see, because I don't exactly know when the 24 is. But also with Barber being not one of the best tracks for me, that might be the final drop week for me, and then it'll be a hard charge towards the end for the championship. So, with playing Inspector Gadget at round 1, finding the landmines at Moss Corner, thankfully I was able to at least stay out of the wall this time and take the win. So, yeah, hopefully, if I'm not here next week, I definitely aim to be here for round 6.
All right, if I remember that, I'll try and give you the nickname of the Inspector Gadget. Well, congrats on the win, Scott. Look forward to seeing you back.
Yeah, no worries. Cheers, Sam.
All right, so that was our race winner, Scott Newton. We have the Camel GT Championship coming up quite quickly, but we have enough time for one more quick interview. Johan, you've called up with Marcus.
Hey Marcus, welcome to the booth. Just quickly, how was it out there? You gained 2 positions since you started. You had some nice battles out there. Good result?
Good evening. Yeah, no, it was a fun race. It was didn't have to manage it so much, and it was quite enjoyable to just kind of sit there and cruise a little bit. I had a fantastic fight with Thomas there. I think it was on lap 4 or something, and went super defensive and covered up my inside line and covered up his line and just got the position. Very happy with my driving today, actually.
Very good. Well, you got a great result with P6 in the end. Next week we go to Barber. Are you confident that you can replicate that result there as well?
It's one of my favorite tracks, but it's one of my favorite tracks in a GT car, so I don't know how well I'm going to do it in a Formula 1 car, but we'll see. It's an enjoyable track, so.
Very good. Well, we'll see if your skills can be replicated in this open wheel car as well. Congratulations with your P6 result, and we'll hope to see you next week.
Thank you very much, Johan.
All right, well, thanks for all of our top finishers for coming to talk to us this evening, and, this morning, rather. We got more races coming up on GSRC and the iRacing Esports Networks. That's why we've got to wrap this up now. We would like to thank all of the people and companies that helped put this on, though. Clayton McLeod, who is the league organizer for this series. Also, of course, the iRacing Esports Network, who help us, who help get the stream to you. over on YouTube and our other social media outlets, and of course also the organisers and the competitors of the Batteries Not Included Championship. They all came out today and put on a great show. Also thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts, and there you can see them listed on your screen. Additional thanks goes out to Eric Heckholm and June Lalonde to provide us with our music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Sean, Johan and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, you can visit us at globalsimracingchannel.com. We're also on Twitter at GSR Channel, and be sure to give us a like on Facebook and check us out on Instagram at GSRC_Gram. All of the upcoming races for our other series are listed on your screen, so be sure to check those out, mark them down on your calendar, and don't miss another second of exciting racing action. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.